We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's show. I'm so happy that you are joining us wherever it is that you are on this wonderful planet. I'm host Leaha Mattinson, and thank you all for spreading the word about Master Your Life and Recovery Road. We're reaching an audience of now over 300,000 people per month. And so just want to thank you again for the moments that you're taking to share and encourage other people to come and tune in. This week, it's my absolute pleasure to invite into the guest seat Sharyn Rose, psychic medium and coach. Now, Sharyn, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, Leaha.
Now, we haven't had Sharyn. Sharyn was a guest multiple years ago, so I wanted to have her back because she was such a fun lady. And I'm just going to do a little intro of Sharyn. Sharyn's a psychic life coach and a medium. She trained at the Arthur Findlay School in Stansted, England, as well as with several other tutors across North America to develop and hone her skills. You know, I think that's so fascinating. People are just so interested and curious about what in the world do psychics do? What do mediums do? And you've been doing this for a very long time. So I'm excited to have you on so that you can explain a little bit more about what it is that you do with clients and what it is that you've maybe done over the span of your career. The question that foremost on Sharyn's mind every day today is, how can I make a difference in the world today? And every day she finds a way, which is awesome, right? She teaches online psychic development workshops for students around the world. Sharyn sees students in studio and also does Zoom and phone consultations. Her newest venture is a delightful podcast called Medium Well with psychic Sharyn Rose, which has a new topic aired every Thursday. Her intention is to offer awareness and guidance to those stuck in their human experience and make different choices to get their lives moving in a fresh, new direction. Humor and stories are part of her repertoire because, as she says, if it isn't fun, it isn't worth doing. So thank you, Sharyn, for being a guest on today's show. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Perfect. Looking forward to it.
So tell us, Sharyn, how in the world did you get started in the world of being a psychic medium? When did that begin for you?
By accident. Honestly, Leaha, it was completely by accident. And I referred to myself quite a bit as the accidental medium, accidental psychic, because it sort of evolved. I actually got into healing work because I was diagnosed with an illness and I wanted to know more about the body. And as I was doing the healing work, I was starting to be drawn to energy work. And energy work led me into things like Reiki and reflexology. And that led me into understanding that I was able to read people's bodies and kind of pinpoint what was going on with them. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And so that led me into taking massage therapy, which led me into talk therapy that goes along with massage therapy. Everybody wants to talk about what's going on when they trust their therapist. And it evolved out of massage therapy, out of Reiki, out of reflexology, right into word therapy, talk therapy, doing medium sessions and doing psychic sessions, not mediumship right away, psychic right away, because I knew stuff. I just thought I was really smart. But I found out I was really intuitive and not all that smart. So it was kind of a letdown because society wants you to be smart. They're not really keen on you being too intuitive, at least back in the day. Now it's
yeah, and it might still be a lot of resistance around it, but I think too, people don't really even know what being psychic is. Can you talk about, because I think a lot of people identify themselves as smart and they can get that completely and go, oh yeah, I think I'm smart. Yeah. But maybe there's more people that are intuitive or psychic. Is there even a difference between intuition and being psychic, or are they the same things?
Intuition and psychic self? Pretty much the same thing. Intuition would be considered like the lead in it's like training wheels before you ride the bike, and then you take the training wheels off, and now you actually are a full-blown psychic. All of this work that I do takes practice. Mm-hmm. It takes focus, it takes discipline, it takes practice. And that's why I travel around the world looking for tutors. Even today, after doing this for a long, long time, I'm still looking for teachers all the time because, but being psychic versus being intellectual, or being intuitive versus being intellectual, your psychic self, it depends on what type of a psychic you are. If your core self is called claircognitive, it comes from you're a data collector, and you get data downloads into your spirit mind, you're going to feel like it's all your imagination and you're just nuts. You're just going to feel like you're crazy and you need to be medicated, or maybe you're just, somebody told you what you think you know, or you read about it somewhere, or maybe you're just making it up, one or the other, until you become a little more focused and a little more trained, and you start to understand you actually are getting data downloads from spirit. So from your higher being, from your higher self, and from all that is, the source, the universal energies. Some people refer to it as God, however you want to call it. And for clairsentience, it would be more of a feeling versus claircognizance is a knowing. And for me, I'm a claircognizant. So for me, it was a real process of trusting, because I thought I was smart and realized I wasn't that smart. I was quite intuitive. And I was like, wait a minute, how do I trust this now? How do I know the difference? How do I know it's not just my imagination going crazy? And that's where teachers came in and practice. And one of the biggest game changers for me was meditation. Mm-hmm. Learning to meditate and focus, and learning how to read that little switch that kind of happens when you go into a psychic mode or you're in mediumship mode really, really makes a difference. And it took a while for me. It took a lot of practice and a lot of training for me to learn how to do that.
Right. And so did somebody notice it in you first and say, hey, maybe you're not smart, maybe you're a psychic? No. They didn't, but I think people know anyway. I think people know, but they don't know what they know. And I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, I was the girl in the group that wasn't ever dating. Mm-hmm. All my girlfriends were dating, and they all had boyfriends or whatever. And they would always come to me with their boy troubles and ask for advice. And I'm the one that didn't have a boyfriend. So I'm like, why would they be doing that? Why are they always? And they loved my advice, and I always seemed to give them the right answers, or seemed to be able to guide them in some way to help them. So that's just an example of people know, because we are all intuitive. Everyone has intuition on the planet. It's just varying degrees. It's like singing. Some people sing in the shower only, and others have platinum albums. But the ones with albums, they did a lot of work and they took a lot of training. So when I have someone come to me that wants to become developed, I really want to know what their intent is with their skill. What is it they're looking for? Are they looking for fame? Are they looking for monetary gain? Or are they really looking to help others and empowerment for self or enlightenment for self? Depending on what they want is whether or not I will coach them. Right. Very interesting. So what if somebody came to you and wanted all three?
Money, power, and as long as they're
helping others.
You're talking about money and fame, right? There's lots of famous rich.
No, and helping others, but helping others, is that to the exclusion of the other two then? Or can you have it all?
Oh no, you can have it all. You can absolutely have it all, but you've got to focus on the skill first. You have to. You can't. Your intent has to be heart-based. If your intention isn't heart-based, if it's ego-based, you won't get there as fast, or probably won't get as far. Right. Because when you are heart-based, all those other things just come. They just show up. And it's called manifesting. Right? And so you just go ahead with your life and you do it from your heart, and you have a good day, and you just know that tomorrow's going to be a good day, and you don't know what's going to show up, but it'll be the things you dream about.
Right on. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. So back to this, noticing that you might be a psychic or have psychic abilities. We've talked a little bit about the knowing. We've talked about the feeling. What other kinds of psychic abilities do people have?
Well, there's some primaries that people will recognize from your listeners will recognize clairvoyance. Mm-hmm. Clairvoyance is seeing, clear seeing. Claircognizant is clear knowing. Clairsentient is clear feeling. And clairvoyance is clear clear seeing. And of course, that mediumship has a lot of clairsentient involved in it, but a lot of people are clairsentient. They actually get visions or visuals. I'm trying to determine when did I ever discover that I was actually first clairvoyant, and I don't have a first. I always was. As a little girl, when my great grandmother died when I was 7, I could see her. I could talk with her. I could sit and have conversations with her, which I completely put aside until I became an adult because it wasn't an acceptable behavior in my home. So it was something I did as a child and forgot, and then picked up again as an adult when I started doing trainings and learning more about who I was.
Right. That's fascinating. I think so many people are deprogrammed of what's actually natural. For us to experience. And
we do it ourselves, though. We do it ourselves because we want to mainstream. What are we looking for when we're kids? We're looking for validation and approval. And what are we looking for as adults? We're looking for the same thing. But when we're kids, we're looking for it from our significant people around us, our parents, our siblings, our teachers, our family, our neighborhood. And if you say you grow up inside a real religious structure, that can put a kibosh on any psychic ability because it's just not following along with the rules. So you'll shut it down yourself because people would disapprove.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so along your path then, you noticed this about yourself. You started finding good mentors. How did you ever end up in England? Because you were not from England. So how did that trip happen? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in BC. I grew up in Canada, in northern BC, in a small little tiny town, two-horse town. I couldn't wait to get away from that little town and go out into the world. I felt like I was living in a bubble as a little girl. And I think a lot of that has to do with familial too, like, how your family raises you. But as I got older and I started, when I was doing all the healing work, et cetera, and I decided that the mediumship started to come up. I was doing the psychic work was starting to really be active, and I was doing a lot of consulting. But all of a sudden, I was starting to see dead people. And I was freaked out. Because remember, I had forgotten about all this when I was a kid. I'd forgotten I did this, that I could do this. And I was freaked out. I didn't like it. And so I literally pushed it aside for a year and got so anxious that I started to realize that this is something I think I'm supposed to do and that I need teachers. And so I started searching North America. Well, I have trust issues because I'm a claircognizant. Claircognizants always have trust issues because we don't trust ourselves. We can't possibly trust the rest of the world, right? And so I started looking around at some of the teachers in North America. They just didn't seem to fit. And then I found information on the Arthur Findlay College in Stansted, England. And when I found that information, it was just before I was going to a conference, a spiritual conference in the States. And I was a smoker back in the day. And I was outside of this conference in the States, outside of the conference hall, and outside and having a cigarette. And a gal came up and asked for a light. And I said, yeah, I said, here. And we got talking. And she said, first thing she said was, wouldn't it be fun to go to the Arthur Findlay College in England? And I went, oh, heck, I'm going to England. It was synchronicity. You follow your nose, you follow the signs. And because I had just been doing the research, I'd never heard of the Arthur Findlay before I found it in the research. But then I bump into a girl, and that girl was from Eastern Canada. And her name was Victoria. I'll never forget her. And we had a chat, and I got to know her quite well. And she was supposed to go with me to England, and she backed out and said, no, she didn't think she should go. And I went to England. And that was my first experience with British tutors, British teachers, we have mystified psychic work here in North America, but in England, it's a way of life. It's normal. So, excuse me. So, the instructors and tutors at the Arthur Findlay were normal people.
Right. So Harry Potter is normal. I have to have a little laugh about this. And so the other thing that's funny, I think, about your story, Sharyn, really is that the time that this happened was, or not funny, but interesting, I guess, is that this was the time before Google, folks. So it wasn't as if you were Googling like, okay, hey, like, where do I take my psychic mediumship courses and all this stuff is coming to you online.
Exactly.
You're literally experiencing and picking up the threads as you go along your path of development. So, and what was there ever times where you got derailed? Like, did anything throw you off your track, or were you pretty good at staying on your path?
You mean deter me from taking the courses I was taking?
Yeah, or just got in the way of you, of the clarity of your path, because it sounds like you went to one thing and then a doorway opened and you went through the doorway. But were there times where you didn't go through the doorway and then you went afterwards? Oh, darn, should have done that. Nope. It was just very...
No, I just follow my nose. And I've been following my nose my whole life. So following my nose in this kind of work, I actually had to follow my nose because really there's no guidebook. I don't have it. There's no course that I can just open a book and say, okay, this is your next step. I mean, there's more now. There's way more available now for people that want to learn to develop their psychic sense. And everybody can develop to some level. Mm-hmm. There are some energy workers, spirit workers, soul beings, psychics, intuitives, healers, practitioners, holistic practitioners on the planet that were born to the craft. They were born to the work, and they just don't know it when they're little kids. You know, but as they evolve into adulthood, they find themselves being that one that's a little bit out of step with the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. They're a little bit uncomfortable in large groups in many cases. They're a little bit, there's a bit of shyness. They are, one of the things about empaths and intuitives and psychics, they're crazily naive.
So bad choices, Sharyn.
Bad choices. Yes. People have a habit of making bad choices and then not accepting the fact that they made those choices. So one of the biggest issues people do have is responsibility for self. A lot of people want to blame somebody else, something else, somewhere else. You know, you hear things, oh, well, they always want to blame something somewhere else for what's going wrong with them. And so when they do that, they also have the habit of not taking credit for what goes right. So they end up with a life that's very mediocre. They don't have any fun because they're not celebrating the good things and they're not mourning the bad things. They're just blaming and saying, oh, well, they giving credit over here and blaming over here, but they don't believe they even really exist. So it's about empowerment.
Yeah, and I love the empowerment thing, because again, it's part of that, can be part of the teaching when we're younger, is to, be quiet, don't let anyone hear you. And if you do anything excellent, for sure, be humble, really, really humble, so that nobody knows anything you've done. And if by some magic way that they find out that you've done something amazing, then that's awesome. But if you say it out loud, then you're
being conceited.
Then you're conceited or arrogant, versus the acknowledgement of your awesomeness.
Yeah, exactly. And so I teach awesomeness. That's what I teach. I teach awesomeness. I teach awesomeness. I teach empowerment. I teach enlightenment. I teach fun. People have forgotten how to laugh. Yes. One of the things I do, one of the exercises I give to my coaching clients always, every one of them, and all of my students online and all my workshops, one of the exercises they have is to draw a picture of their core family when they were young with colored pencils, crayons, whatever they've got handy, and do it with their non-dominant hand. And what they learn is, that they are quite intuitive, because a lot of intuition will come out in that because they've got to tap into their creative aspect. But they also discover how creative they are. And they realize that even when you ask them to do something that sounds impossible, they can do it. But they just have to decide they want to do it. And if you approach it with a sense of fun, because they all approach it with like, are you serious? You really want me to do that? Nah, I can't do that. And then they do it.
Right.
Yeah. And they're having fun.
It's so take the time, everyone who's tuning in right now, to get out your crayons and your pen. Yeah. Even if you only have wax crayons kicking around. I know a lot of people who listen to this show have children and grandchildren. So I know you've got pencil crayons laying around. And if you don't, it's a good investment. So do the exercise. that and see just what you can experience or explore about yourself, and opening up that little gate of fun and possibility too, because you never know what's going to come out of that. I automatically had a picture of me drawing that and putting clown hair on.
The hair, good. The nose, maybe not.
maybe not the nose. But yes, I was playing along in my mind. So I have another question about, you said that you let your nose lead you. Why do you not say, I'm led by my heart or led by my thoughts? Because you repeated that several times, that you're led by
follow my nose. I follow my nose.
Follow your nose. Yes.
Well, I'm French and I have my father's nose.
And he was a chef.
My father was a chef. Yeah. But it's just an expression. Actually, I've never really thought about that expression. It's something that we always used to say when we were kids. Or we were told, follow your nose, follow your nose. That meant follow your gut, follow your hunch, follow your instinct, follow your intuition. Follow your nose, just follow where you go, follow where you're led. Our intuition isn't just our heart. Our intuition is all of us. Our intuition is our soul self communicating with who we are. And we're all of us. See, one of the biggest questions I get from a lot of clients is, say a relative just passed, is my relative okay? And what I'll do is I'll discuss with them what does it look like to be a human being on this planet? And how do you have intuition, instinct, psychic self if all you are is physical and ego? What is the other part of you? And to understand that we are soul first, spirit first, and human second. We're here for a trip. We're here for an adventure. We came for the ride on the river. We're here to have a really good time and to work through some of the issues that we think would be interesting to find out what the solutions look like. So we are faced with many challenges. But when we're here for the ride on the river, we're here in our physical form, in a physical environment. Because we can't interact with this physical environment called Earth without a physical apparatus to do that with, and without the senses, the hearing and the smelling and the touching and all of that. And when the physical apparatus that we've decided to create to help us through this physical journey wears out, then we're back to where we started from in spirit. So we are pure light, pure love, and all-knowing, coming to this planet, taking on an ego, which is designed to help us and keep us safe in our human journey, because we're, kind of mushy stuff, like we break easy. And then when we transition out of physical, when our apparatus doesn't work anymore, then our ego also falls away because it's connected to the physical. It's not connected to the spiritual. The challenge we have in our journey here, especially in North America, is we're a materialistic, capitalistic society. So ego comes first. We always put the ego first. And we teach our young people to put the ego first. The spiritual revolution that's been taking place for about the last 20 years, with the advent of the Asian communities coming more into our culture, where we're learning about their spiritual ways, they're in their healing modalities, their spiritual traditions. The Tibetan people have had a huge influence on the Buddhists on our culture. People from India, from all of these different cultures now we're a melting pot, and we're starting to catch on. Hey, you know what? These guys might have something going on here that we just don't know anything about. And that is embrace your spiritual aspect. And it was through the Buddhist studies that I did that I really was finally able to embrace meditation. Because I just couldn't shut my mind up. Claircognitives don't stop thinking, and embrace a spiritual life. But even just saying the word spiritual gave me the heebie-jeebies initially, because I thought I was trying to be a good, upstanding citizen, of the church world. But I'm not a church person. It's just that's the only context I'd ever seen it in or heard of it in. And yet spiritual work and spiritual activity and spirit is what a psychic is and does.
And so what is the spiritual work?
Guidance. It's providing guidance. it's keeping yourself in a powerful place of joy and appreciation and love and hope versus falling down into the emotions of anger and greed and jealousy. And you asked earlier if the monetary, could you have the monetary and the power and the desire to help, could it all be a part of your journey? And it absolutely can. But the monetary gain and the fame game is all based in ego, whereas the desire to help is based in spirit. And if you can focus on that and just focus on that, any of the ego stuff will just pop in, any of the stuff that is based in the material world. Yeah. But doing the spiritual work is seeing where it needs to be done, first of all, seeing where it's needed, and understanding too, responsibility for self, understanding that when there's something going on in the world that you're really unhappy with or uncomfortable with or makes you sad, knowing you can make a difference right from where you are.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why you and I connected so quickly when we connected the first time, is because you're one of the few people that I went, you actually think the same thing I do about this, which is we create it all.
Yeah.
And we create it all in our lives.
Yeah.
And so that whole just the personal responsibility. And when we make a bunch of bad decisions because we've been told that we are at that the external forces have all of this influence and will over us and are infiltrating us all the time, then it takes away our ability. We feel like we are not the person making the decisions, that something else external to us is making decisions. But when we look back at all the bad decisions that we've made, or good decisions, but primarily if we're on a rocky road and there's been bad decisions and we haven't felt them, then we are not on the path of that spiritual development, because we've had to turn away from it, because that spiritual development, I think, is based in self-trust. And so the whole foundation of trust used to be something that was practiced, trusting yourself that you would show up and do what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it, because both yourself and other people were relying on you to do those things. You could do business on the shake of a hand because your neighbors were trustworthy. So there was like all of this foundation of trust in ourselves and in our external landscape, and that's eroded.
It has. I think it had to break down to be built up.
Agreed.
I think our society is going through a big transformation.
Yes.
And I think that there's an awareness now. People are starting to understand that they've been lied to a lot.
Yeah.
They've been fed the wrong information because you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. True ignorance is just not having the knowledge, not having the opportunity to gather the knowledge. And so that's what true ignorance really is. It's not about being a rude person.
Right. Yes. Yes.
And so we are educating our society one person at a time. Any holistic practitioner, you're doing it yourself through your work. I'm doing it through mine. All the other practitioners out there, I train people, as many as I can train, to get them out there and working and helping others and guiding them. I don't care from what platform. It doesn't matter. As long as their focus and intent is to help others understand it, they're in charge. It's their life. You own your life. It's yours.
I own my life. We can write that down too, beside our family picture.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
I own my life. I own my life. And so do you have clients that are in all age ranges now, Sharyn, or yes. Yeah. And so can you tell some stories of how maybe bad decisions or good decisions have helped a family situation or individuals within a community to start experiencing a better life?
Well, one of the biggest issues we have in our culture is worry. And I had a young lady come to me a long time ago, because long time ago. Oh gosh. Okay. Let's put this in a context here. Probably 12 years, let's say, roughly 12 years ago. She came to me and she was a mess. She'd been married for 4 years and she wanted a baby so bad, so bad. And, she was emotional about it. And anyone out there that wants to have a baby that hasn't been able to, they'll understand what I'm talking about. And so we did a 1 hour session, and I understood that she had some real familial issues and some issues from childhood that she was carrying with her about her worth, her sense of worth. She had in her subconscious the idea that she didn't deserve children. She wouldn't be a good mom, that she didn't know how to do it, that she didn't, and that she might be with like somebody that she didn't really want to be like. And so she took on the coaching program, and we did the coaching program. And I'll never forget. I do a 5 10-hour session or 5 2-hour sessions. So it's a 10-hour for the boot camp. And then we go from there, however we need to go. And I never forget the third session. She hit the wall and she just cried and cried and cried and cried. This is a strong clairsentient woman. And I'm a claircognizant. We don't work through our emotions as a claircog. We work through our data. She was working through her emotions, and she just cried and cried. She cried so much, I think she went through a box of Kleenex. But I also had to take her out to dinner just to help settle her down. And I did. And then she finished her next 2 sessions, and she was a totally different person. She hit the wall and she broke through, and she went, I deserve good things. I deserve to look good. I deserve to feel good. And she just got it right there. 6 weeks later, I got a note from her that she was pregnant.
Oh, yay. Yay.
She now has 3 children.
Wow.
And
wow.
She now lives in Australia and has become a bodybuilder and trains in gyms and does her own training. She's become a trainer as well. She's been amazing. Her whole life completely changed, as did her husband's. So there's an example of somebody who was making decisions based on old stories she was told as a child about who she was. Mm-hmm. And she finally got that that's not who she was. And so her crashing into the wall at the third session was really her going into mourning for her letting go of that old her and taking on the new her. Mm-hmm. Boy, she's something.
That's so awesome. What a great story. And so many people across the world really are struggling with fertility issues.
Yeah.
And depression. So have you treated very many clients with, or customers, coached many people?
Clients.
with depression?
The one thing is I'm not a medical practitioner.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that's very clear.
Yes.
People that come in with depression, when we look at the emotional guidance scale, which is a scale that's used by Esther Hicks on the study in Abraham, when she works with the Abraham work. She uses what's called a emotional guidance scale. And at the top of the scale are all the higher based emotions, the joy-based emotions, love, appreciation, hope. And the bottom of the scale are the ego-based emotions. And what'll happen is when somebody comes in with depression, the first thing I'm going to ask them, or if they tell me that, we do a little assessment, like what's going on with you? And they'll say, well, I'm, depressed. I'm struggling with depression. Anxiety is another one that's big now. First thing I'll ask them is, are you being medicated? Mm-hmm. And they'll generally say yes. Mm-hmm. And I'll ask, has your medication been upped? Has it been lowered? Like what is, so we talk about that. Then I show them the emotional guidance scale, and I ask them to find depression on the scale. Mm-hmm. And it's at the very bottom. Mm-hmm. And they find it. And then I say to them, look at all the emotions that are above that are healthier. One of them is anger. And one of the things about being depressed in our society is that we're treated for depression because we're acting out or doing whatever we're doing. We're treated for bad behavior, whatever. We're being medicated. And when we say, I think I feel better now and I'm going to come off this medication, we start feeling those really real emotions of anger, frustration, jealousy, greed, sadness, and we start acting out again. And they say, oh, no, we got to put you back on that medication. Right? Mm-hmm. So when people are being treated with medication for depression, sometimes it's all about behavior and it's not about biochemistry. And I think that not enough maybe work has been done in some cases to determine why are they depressed. Is it environmental? Is it nutritional? Is it their physiology? Or is it just a behavioral habit that they might have? And so for me, I will do everything I can. I will do everything I can to give people hope. And then they do the reaching, which puts me in a situation where we sometimes will do a level 1 of a training, and then people will, we're done and off they go. And it won't be 2 years before I'll see them again because they have to do the work.
Yeah.
I can't help somebody that's not there.
No, and that's just like us in our real lives. We're like finding teachers, doing the work, because it's always an evolution of self. For those of you who are only catching this on the audio version, please, I want to encourage you to come over and watch the video version on the YouTube channel or on the masteryourlife.ca website, because we're lots of fun to watch, you know, so there you go. So we've talked a little bit about depression. Let's shift gears and spend the next 10 minutes talking about what you're doing now. So you've worked with clients for many years. Yep. And I don't want to age you, but it's been decades. So you're very experienced, and you've done tours of many kinds also that have been fun and interesting. But right now, what are you focusing in on for work?
Well, I've always got a project on the go, Leah. I'm no different than you. I'm just like you that way. I like having new adventures. I love having new adventures. And I like, I'm that person that when I watch a TV show, I have to be doing something else at the same time. I can't just sit and just focus on a TV show. I have to, you know, always be doing something else. And same with my work. So right now I have a new baby, and it's Medium Well with Psychic Sharyn Rose. It's a podcast. And we started it last July. We come out every Thursday with a new episode, and they're about 18 to 20 minutes long, each episode. They're just thought-provoking, and there's no interviews at this point. It's just me yakking away and telling funny stories and whatever. And I love it. It's really, really fun. I'm having so much fun with it. And it was actually named by one of my sons. He says, I think it's a great name for you. So Medium Well with Psychic Sharyn Rose. And the other thing that I'm doing was inspired by my father. And it's Kitchen Witchin'. And the Kitchen Witchin' is a workshop series, a 6-month workshop series that online only, and it kind of evolved out of COVID. But in July of 2020, when my father passed, he was 98 years old. Yeah. And he passed suddenly. He wasn't sick. He had a fall, and it was a surprise. And I didn't deal very well with it. Now, you can be a medium, you can be a psychic, you can be the best holistic practitioner on the planet. But when somebody you love leaves their physical form, it's hard to handle, just like any other human on the planet. And I had a difficult time. And of course, we're in COVID. And I found myself, all of a sudden, I was voiceless. I had no voice. I couldn't talk. I literally lost my voice. And I couldn't have clients come in, and I couldn't do phone consults. I couldn't do Zoom consults because I couldn't talk. So I found myself in the kitchen, and I started baking, all these amazing dishes that were things my dad would make. Like, he made bread. I hadn't made bread in years. Man, I'm pretty good at it.
That's excellent. Yes.
And I started doing a lot of baking. And at that time, after my father passed, David's father was diagnosed, my husband's father was diagnosed with cancer. So we knew that he was kind of on his way out as well. And so he lived not far from us. All my baking would go over to him, like for a lot of it. And he loved it. So because he loved it so much, I was always experimenting. And out of this whole cooking process, and still doing meditations and spiritual work, and really wanting to do an online workshop series, Kitchen Witchin' evolved from that. And what I wanted to really do was bring Dad's skill and my skill to the table together. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun if psychics got back into the kitchen and really started creating and bringing out the kid in them again, and that joy, which helps you elevate your psychic ability. And if cooks that wanted to become more spiritually evolved got involved with the training program that also included the kitchen. And it's been a trip. It has been a trip.
As soon as I heard the name, I went, oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. It's such a great idea. And you've brought it to life. And so what are the fun things what's different about your course than just taking a course from a regular chef?
Oh, heck. Well, we're all home cooks. We're not regular chefs. And it's really not a cooking show. It's a psychic show more.
It's a psychic show, yes.
Based more on the psychic. There, I throw challenges out. We have our own Facebook page. The group that are training with me, we have our own Facebook page, or the groups. We're in our second group now, but we have our own Facebook page. And so I throw a challenge out. I'll say, listen, I'm going to give away a free reading for anybody that, I'm going to do a draw for a free reading for anybody that wants to put up a video of you cooking something in your kitchen. And boy, I tell you what, they do it. They have so much fun, and they're videotaping, and there's a mother-daughter team that got the giggles so bad. I've watched it a dozen times just because it gives me the giggles. It's so much fun, and everybody's playing, doing a lot of playing. And what's happening is their spirituality is growing as they also connect with one another. And one of the most surprising things that's come out of it for me is learning the great importance of teamwork. And understanding you can't be a solo flyer on this planet. You just can't. You won't get anywhere. And so Dwayne, who is our common, we both know Dwayne, yes, has become a partner of mine in that enterprise. Just he's the one that actually named, or no, I named it, but then he grabbed the domain right away. So let me see if it's available. And it wasn't. And he said, it's not available. I bought the domain. What are we doing next? And it's like, oh, all right then. And off we went. So he did all the video work for me, and he does all the editing work, and he's like my right arm. But having a partner in it is huge for me. And I started to understand that partnership matters a great deal to me when I'm doing any kind of holistic work. And I encourage that amongst all my students as well. So we meet online every Thursday night. There's a 1-hour Zoom. And everybody catches up with each other, but some of them have each other's email addresses. They all hang out on the Facebook page. They'll ask each other questions if they know that I'm, just as a matter of fact, I should have brought it into the office here, but just the other day I went out to my door. I went out to go out and do something, and there was a package sitting by my door, and it was in a little blue bag. And I looked, and it's a little stainless steel cauldron with a lid and a wooden spoon and a little handle, and it's from all the kitchen witches, and nobody will fess up as to who put it on my doorstep.
That's so cute. That is so cute.
But that's what happens, is that appreciation. It starts to go, and it's like if you spill the honey jar, it's going to get in everything. It's wonderful. It's so nice. And these girls help each other. And guys, there's guys in the course as well. We all work together. So teamwork. It's probably been one of the most new concepts for me. So now with the podcast, I wanted so bad to do a podcast. So what I did is I put it out there. I just said, hey, to the universe, I want to do a podcast. I really, really want to do a podcast. And through knowing who I know, just various people, somebody came to me and said, why don't you get a hold of this girl? She wants to build a podcast business, producing podcasts, and she's looking for clients. And I haven't said anything to this person about wanting to do podcasts, but I got a hold of her right away. We clicked right away. And she now produces all the podcasts, and like I record it, and I just fire it to her, and she does all the work. Like, I think she's doing all the work. I think I'm doing the easy stuff.
Yes. Well, but she probably thinks from her perspective that you're doing the work, because she doesn't like to talk to, to the audience.
She's in her sweet spot, right?
Right.
She loves editing and doing all that. And for me, that's like Greek. I'd really rather do this,
That's
exactly.
Right. It's,
So again, teamwork. Excuse me.
So in the last couple of minutes of the show, Sharyn, who would this really appeal to? What kind of people would really be looking for this kind of...
Most anybody over 40.
Most anybody over 40. And they're
primarily
kids.
Women. Primarily women, but between the ages of 40 and onward, I've got clients that are in their late 70s, and I've got clients that are in their early 20s. That are taking the course, the workshop. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's really comical how they start to, you can see their own energies coming together when they start taking care of one another. And one of them might have a story about something horrible that happened during the week, and they'll talk about it, and everybody is there for them. Everybody's there for them. So it runs that gamut. But my primary student, and even the listeners on the podcast, they run anywhere from 40 years old and up. It's generally.
Awesome. Beautiful. And so how can people find out all about you? They can go to your website.
Yeah. They can go to SharynRose.com, and it's Sharyn with a Y. So it's just SharynRose.com. It's real easy. They can go to 𝑘itchenwitchen.ca, which has got the Kitchen Witchen information. The podcast information is also all on the Sharyn Rose site. But Facebook, if you're on Facebook, check any of those, Sharyn Rose or Kitchen Witchen, or even Medium Well with Psychic Sharyn Rose. They all have their own Facebook pages as well.
And you are still taking private clients, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I see clients regularly. And I do a lot of Zoom still and a lot of phone still. I have a lot of clients from afar, like I have clients from around the world. And then I have clients that come in, and I have my coaching clients as well. So yeah, it's busy.
Yes, it's a good, beautiful, busy, helping other people to be well and get out of this human experience and into a more divine experience of their own life. And
start having fun with each other. One of the things COVID did too is it isolated a lot of people.
Yes.
And it changed the way they think about, there's some people that just fell by the wayside out of people's lives, but they were supposed to. And what's happened is new people are taking their spaces. And so what's happening now for me with the work I'm doing, the podcast is drawing listeners from, we just looked at the stats yesterday, around the world. And when you find a podcast and you sort of think that's a pretty cool one, maybe I'll listen to another one. And that's what seems to be happening, is it's starting to gain some momentum. We're babies still. We're still babies in the podcast field, but the Kitchen Witchen field. So we've got another starting up again. We'll be starting up Kitchen Witchen Series 1 again in September.
Wonderful. So everyone who wants to check out Sharyn Rose and her wonderful work on this beautiful plane, working with the universal energies, then please go to her website. Check us out at masteryourlife.ca, where she'll also be posted, and on the YouTube channel. Thanks again for being my guest, Sharyn. It's been a delight to talk to you once again.
Yeah,
everyone.
Fun. Thank you. Yeah.
It has been fun. Love yourselves. Love each other. Mind your minds. That's all for us. Bye for now.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.